that? I think I fixed it. Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears, and today I'm going to do a little bit of everything. I've got all three cars in various states of repair or disrepair, so we're going to do kind of a quick fleet update. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things I've got going on with each and every car, and we're going to probably end the day with a little bit of kind of getting to know the Miata a little bit more as I get ready to do some major work to it. Now with the Maverick, biggest problem I was having right now is I'm leaking fuel. So there's a fuel pump. You can't really see it from up here. You have to be underneath the car, and I don't feel like getting underneath the car right now. Initially, I had thought that it was because the fuel line was pinched because I'm a moron and I don't know anything about fixing cars apparently. So I fixed that pinched fuel line, and it's still leaking. So something is loose, something is bad, something is wrong. My gripe about this is that this is a brand new fuel pump. I have probably 10 miles on this fuel pump, and for it to leak is just really upsetting to me. So I'm going to take my time on this. Obviously, this car is not something that I want to rush through and do wrong because it's in such a nice condition. I mean, come on, look at that. Look at that. The original valve cover stickers, the stickers on the air cleaner, it's just like, wow. So I don't want to screw this up. I want to get this right, so I'm going to take my time on this. And what I'm more likely to do is I'm probably going to rearrange cars in here, put this back down here where the Prelude currently is, and just kind of take my time working on it because I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, and I really don't want to block major work on other cars like this one over here. We're going to come back to this one in a second. Now the Prelude, I'm still waiting on the panel clip. Now with the Prelude, I think it'd be a nice opportunity to talk about some of the things that I've got going on with the suspension. Now, down here, behind the wheel, you can see I've got some weld action happening. This is a fun story. So what happened was I had lowered my car. I had Tokiko Blue shocks and H&R springs. Brought the car down about, I don't know, 2-3 inches. It sure looked cool. The ride was really stiff, handled really well, but really the problem was that it brought the car down too low, and it just, come on flashlight, it put too much stress on the body, and the body just literally tore itself apart right along the seams on both wheel wells, and this one was the worst one. So what we ended up doing was I had to take the whole suspension apart, and I had a buddy weld it back together poorly, but we don't need it to be pretty, we just needed it to be functional. And you can see he probably could have done a better job laying the bead. I mean, he definitely could have done a better job. But considering he set the car on fire while he was doing this, I think he did good enough. And yes, this car has been on fire when he was welding in this area over here along the firewall. Ironic. When he was welding the firewall, he set the firewall on fire. And I got really lucky because that fire burned a hole in the cowl, which allowed me to put the fire out. I would not have been able to put the fire out so quickly if that had not burned a hole. It would have been much more difficult. So since then, I've done some things a little bit better. I'm trying to reposition everything. I've got K-Sport coilovers, and I've raised the car back up to, I don't know, it's not stock height, but it's not nearly as low as it was with the H&R springs. And I've got camber plates to fix all of the suspension geometry and stuff like that. And also having another problem that I was having with having the car so low was that I was going through axles every year, just chewing them up. And since I've raised the car back up a little bit, I haven't had any problems with axles. Now it looks like my ball joint boot could potentially be replaced. It looks like I'm having a little bit of crack action here. Yeah. A little bit cracked. I'm not too worried about it yet. I'll get to it another time. And I'm really, really looking forward to getting panel clips for this car because I'm paying for it to be on the road, and it's very clearly not on the road. So this is very frustrating, waiting for this part from, I'm assuming I'm waiting for the part from China or Japan or something like that. Now on the Miata, clearly I got some suspension work to do because this is bad suspension. But before I do that, I know I have to do a whole bunch of work just to get the car running right so that it will pass smog. The spark plugs are bad. I'm assuming the wires need to be replaced. It really just needs a full tune-up. And also, I just, knowing how bad this car is, I don't trust anything about it. I'm gonna just replace the timing belt, replace the water pump, and just really tear it down to the point where when I put it back together, I can be confident that this car is going to last me a good while before I have to do any major work on it again. Now, while I'm in there, I might need to do the head gasket. I'm going to take out, really tear it down to the point where the only thing stopping me from doing a head gasket is taking off the intake and exhaust manifold. Really big deal. It's just a few bolts, and then I move it to the side and I can take the head up. But so I really need to know if that's something I need to do, because that's an expense still that if I don't need to do it, then I'm not going to do it. And also, I see evidence that block sealer was poured into the radiator, so I want to really know for sure if I have a blown head gasket. Because if I have a blown head gasket, I'll be already very close to replacing it. And I don't want to just replace it even if I don't have to, just because, I mean, not only is it an expense, but it's also a risk, because I might not put it back together correctly. I'm apparently, as evidenced by the fuel pump on the Maverick, I'm a very lousy mechanic. In order to test the block, I've got Block Tester. It's a very cheap and easy way to know if your engine is hosed. It's got this thing, and then this pump. What it does is you fill this with the blue liquid. Fill this with this liquid here, and you stick this in the top of the radiator and you pump air through it. And if it changes color other than blue, if it turns yellow or green, your block is hosed. Now you can dig even deeper to find out which cylinder it is, but really at that point, block is hosed, change the head gasket, and retest. Well, before you can actually do this test, the first thing you got to do is you got to pop the radiator cap, obviously, and check the level of the coolant. You got to have enough room to suck in air without also sucking in coolant. I'm not entirely comfortable with this level. I might want to drain it just a little bit. So I've got my catch pan under here. I'm going to see what's doing here. All right. And I guess it was a lot more on there than I thought. Whoa! Okay. A little more. Doesn't even look like coolant. It just looks like water with the orange stuff in it. Okay. Alright, the next thing is to start up the car and warm it up. Oof. Those valves sound nasty. All right, moment of truth. I'm just a little nervous. Oh, oh, it's blown. Oh, it's blown. Oh, it is so blown. Yep, I bought a lemon. Well, I know some things I did not know before. The fluid went piss yellow, which means I got a blown head gasket. But it's better to know now than to have done all of that work on it, then gone and failed smog, and gone through all of that trouble and expense just to redo it again. So I guess this is a good thing. This is a very good tool to have for checking to see if your car is a piece of crap or not. And I think we know the answer to this one. But thankfully, I can fix that. So the lesson here is, when you buy a used car, especially with high miles, especially with expired tags, assume everything's wrong with it. I mean, I kind of knew what I might potentially be getting myself into, which is why I chose a Miata, because I know that these cars are very easy to work on. There's really nothing in this car that makes me afraid. But if it had been a BMW or something like that, I'd be furious right now. I'd be feeling very betrayed, and I would not know what to do with myself, because a car that's very complicated to work on, or a car that, or if there's an urgency involved, if I need a car today, or if I need a car tomorrow, like this would have been a very, very bad pick. But I knew what could happen when I bought this car, and all of my fears really came true. The good thing is that, from what I can tell, it does have a mostly straight body. It's probably been whacked in the front end, which is why there's no bumper support. But I still, if I had to do it again, I would have taken the block test fluid with me. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. The next car that I buy, I'm taking the block test fluid with me, and I'm going to check to see if the head gasket's blown. And really, what I probably still would have bought the car. I just wouldn't have paid as much as I paid for it. I probably would have paid easily $1,000 less, because I'm putting $500 in parts in this thing, and not to mention probably a month's worth of weekends, because I can only work really on weekends or little bits here and there, and I've got other cars here. So there's other things that I could be doing with my time, but now I have to spend it on this. Now I have to, when I start working on this, I have to know and accept the fact that this car, once I start taking it apart, isn't going to leave until it's completely done. And that's kind of what makes me feel uncertain. That's kind of what grinds my gears a little bit, is that nothing is going to be quick on this thing. Nothing is going to be just a weekend project. This is going to be an undertaking, and I don't know if I'm ready for that, because like I could fix the fuel pump on the Maverick. I think that's going to be relatively quick. I got to finish this Prelude. And I know that's going to be quick because I've done all of that work. So I keep telling myself I'm going to get into working on this thing, and I just don't know if I'm going to, because there's other things that are coming up. I'm going to work on it. I have to. I have an incomplete registration, so I have to finish it. But when? Maybe next week? I keep telling myself that next weekend. So I got most of the parts I need. So at some point, I'm going to have a pile of parts waiting get put on, and there's no more parts to buy, so there's no more excuses to putting this off. But anyway, when you go buy a car, just be careful. Know what you could be getting yourself into. Accept that everything could be broken, and the person is either doesn't know the car or is just outright lying to you. I really don't know what the situation is. He seemed like a nice guy, so he probably just didn't know how bad off this car was. But it's pretty bad off. So just know what you're getting yourself into and be prepared. Be prepared, and if you have diagnostic tools to bring with you, bring them with you. You'll be able to negotiate the price down real quick. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. I'm going to rearrange these cars a little bit and probably make a little bit more progress on the Maverick, I hope. And I don't know what else I'm going to do. Thanks for watching.